It's no secret that Russia and the US are engaged in a global hypersonic arms race. And while American and Russian hypersonics get most of the headlines, there's another contender that shouldn't be slept on. Meet DFCF, China's silent hypersonic hunter. While Russia and the United States have been publicly boasting about their newest hypersonic weapons, China has been quietly testing theirs for more than a decade now. The DFCF, or Dongfeng 17, as it's known in Chinese, literally meaning East Wind 17, was first unveiled in 2007 and successfully tested 6 times between then and 2021. As the People's Liberation Army has continued to develop this weapon system, we've learned that it might be more dangerous than originally thought. Officially, the DFCF is called a boost glide vehicle, and that's exactly what it does. It rides atop a conventional ballistic missile before separating at high altitude and gliding toward its target at speeds above Mach 10. Unofficially though, it's known as the hypersonic killer, or the silent hunter, and that's where things get interesting. You see, unlike other hypersonics being developed by world powers, the DFCF is rumored to carry advanced electronic warfare systems that could jam, enemy radar and communications during its approach, making it almost impossible to intercept. This low observable approach makes the DFCF one of the most mysterious and deadly weapons in the People's Liberation Army arsenal. So how does it work? What is its range and payload? And most importantly, why should you care? We're about to find out. Before we get into the technical details of DFCF, let's take a step back and explain the basics of hypersonic weapons. Hypersonics are missiles that fly at speeds greater than Mach 5 or 5 times the speed of sound, which is approximately 3,839 miles per hour. They operate in the lower atmosphere and can maneuver like a cruise missile, but they travel at speeds much faster than traditional cruise missiles. Because of their speed and maneuverability, current air defense systems are largely ineffective against them. Dipped by 2 main types of hypersonic weapons, hypersonic cruise missiles and hypersonic glide bodies. As their names suggest, hypersonic cruise missiles resemble regular cruise missiles, except that they travel at hypersonic speeds. Hypersonic glide bodies, on the other hand, are carried aloft by a rocket booster until they reach high altitudes and speeds. At that point, the booster releases the glide body, which then flies independently towards its target, using aerodynamic forces to steer itself. The DFCF is a hypersonic glide body. Now, let's dive deeper into DFCF and the mysteries surrounding it. In 2007, China reportedly tested an experimental hypersonic weapon from the back of a long-range bomber. The weapon was carried under the wing of the H-6K bomber, which released it at an undisclosed location over the Pacific Ocean near China's southern coast. According to reports, the weapon glided for hundreds of miles before striking its target in the water. At the time, little was known about the weapon, but it was believed to be similar to the American X-47C, which had been tested just a few months earlier. However, the Chinese weapon was likely more advanced than the American prototype, as it was able to glide for much longer distances. Over the next few years, China conducted several more tests of the DFCF. In 2014, a hypersonic weapon was spotted on top of a new type of truck-mounted launcher, which indicated that China was developing a mobile platform for the weapon. By 2016, China had reportedly tested the DFCF at least 3 times, with one test taking place in the South China Sea. These tests were likely in preparation for the weapon's eventual deployment in the People's Liberation Army. In 2019, it was reported that China had conducted a successful test of the DFCF over the Pacific Ocean. The test was significant because it was the first time that China had tested the weapon over water, which may have been done to simulate an attack on a US carrier strike group. The test also demonstrated China's growing confidence in the weapon system, as the country had previously only tested the DFCF over land. The latest known test of the DFCF took place in July 2021 According to reports, the weapon was launched from a silo in the Gobi Desert and traveled over 2,500 miles before hitting its target in the Pacific Ocean. The test was notable because it was the longest hypersonic weapons test ever conducted up to that point. It also demonstrated China's ability to accurately hit targets deep within enemy territory, which is an important capability for any military force. So, what do these tests tell us about the DFCF? First and foremost, they indicate that China is serious about developing a hypersonic weapon. After all, the country has been testing the DFCF for over a decade and has conducted multiple tests each year since 2016. Second, these tests suggest that the DFCF is a highly accurate weapon. China can accurately hit targets over 2,500 miles away, then its hypersonic weapon must be extremely precise. Finally, these tests show that the DFCF is a versatile weapon. It can be launched from silos, carried under the wing of a bomber, or mounted on a truck. Okay, this versatility allows China to deploy the weapon in a variety of ways, depending on the situation. We don't know much about its range, but the 2021 test suggests that it can travel at least 2,500 miles, which means that most of the western United States would be within range of a Chinese DFCF attack. But the real mystery surrounding the DFCF isn't its range or accuracy, it's its payload and its purpose. What is the DFCF designed to do? According to some reports, the DFCF is designed to destroy aircraft carriers. In 2019, leaked documents from the People's Liberation Army suggested that the DFCF could be used to attack U.S. Navy aircraft carriers in the Pacific Ocean. The documents described a scenario in which the DFCF would be used to destroy an American carrier strike group, which consists of an aircraft carrier and its escort ships. In this scenario, the DFCF would fly at extremely low altitudes to avoid detection by enemy radar. Once it was close enough to its target, it would release a nuclear warhead and fly away before the carrier could react. According to the leaked documents, the DFCF would be deployed in the event of a war with the United States. This suggests that the weapon is designed to be used as a last resort in a major conflict. Now, there's no evidence that China plans to use the DFCF against U.S. Navy aircraft carriers, but it's certainly possible. Aircraft carriers are among the most powerful weapons that the United States has to offer. So it makes sense that China would want to develop a weapon that can counter them. Plus, the leaked Plie documents are consistent with other reports about the DFCF's capabilities. For example, the weapon's ability to fly at very low altitudes makes it difficult to detect and intercept, which is another reason why it could be effective against aircraft carriers. In addition, the DFCF's speed and maneuverability make it challenging to defend against. Aircraft carriers typically defend themselves using a combination of fighter jets, helicopters, and surface-to-air missiles. However, these defenses are unlikely to be effective against the DFCF. The weapon's speed and maneuverability mean that it can easily outrun fighter jets and helicopters, and its hypersonic speed would make it very difficult for surface-to-air missiles to hit. Even if an aircraft carrier could detect the DFCF, it would be almost impossible to stop. Finally, the DFCF's ability to carry electronic warfare payloads further enhances its threat to aircraft carriers. Electronic warfare is a type of warfare that uses radio frequency or RF energy to disrupt or destroy enemy communications and radar systems. Aircraft carriers rely heavily on radar and communications systems to detect incoming aircraft and missiles and coordinate their defenses. So, if the DFCF could disrupt these systems, it could make the carrier vulnerable to attack. It's clear that the DFCF poses a serious threat to aircraft carriers. So it's not surprising that China has been investing so much time and resources into developing this technology. While the DFCF is still in the testing phase, it's likely that China will deploy the weapon in the near future. When it does, U.S. Navy aircraft carriers will have to be careful when operating in the Pacific Ocean. that's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. See you in the next one.